The Forsaken Heir. Previous episodes are available on the playlist. You can also visit our website for your favorite stories. A link is provided in the video description. Episode 41. Elaine never dreamed that after more than 20 years, she would still get such a fat beating because of Miking's incident. She was looking at herself and was about to persuade Gina, but she didn't expect that after Mrs. Wilson moved out of this matter, she would directly subvert all her efforts, and instead plunge her into an endless abyss. The few women who came up to beat her up had all experienced the tragic past of being meddled by women, so when they hit her, they brought all their new and old hatreds into it, and they didn't show any mercy at all. Elaine was beaten again quickly, and her whole body was almost dying. Several times Elaine felt that she was going to be in shock, but before she was really shocked, she was woken up twice by others. After a group of people beat Elaine, the old Mrs. Wilson said to the side, "I think we'd better get this sorrowful woman to the toilet, so that she won't make us upset here." "Yes." The woman who rushed up to start her hands coldly said, "The Lady Wilson is right. Throw her into the toilet." With that said, she greeted another woman next to her and said, "We are both hold a leg, and we will drag her in." "Okay." The other party immediately nodded and agreed, so the two of them pulled Elaine's leg and dragged her from the ground to the toilet. Wendy also hurriedly followed. Seeing that the two women threw Elaine into the toilet, she took out the wash basin and took a basin of water and poured it directly on her body. She sneered and said, "Elaine, you never dreamed. Do you think you will have today? Just rely on you, still want to fight with Grandma." Elaine was awakened by the cold water, shaking violently and regretting in her heart. She shouldn't say those things in front of Gina, trying to arouse Gina's sympathy. If she didn't accuse Mrs. Wilson of what happened just now, she wouldn't end up like this. What she regrets more is that she shouldn't have stolen the bank card of her son-in-law Charlie, and never dreamed that Charlie turned out to be a transnational liar. If she didn't steal his bank card, he would be the one who would come in and suffer this time sooner or later, but because she couldn't control her hands, she was here now, suffering this inhuman torture. Her intestines are already regretful. That night, Elaine sat in the corner of the toilet holding her legs and struggled till dawn. In the evening, Elaine had already developed a high fever, which made her bewildered. More importantly, she hasn't eaten anything for nearly 48 hours. When everyone else started to wash in the toilet in the morning, Elaine was so weak that she didn't even have the strength to lift her eyelids. Someone in the cell went to get the breakfast for the whole cell. The breakfast consisted of rice porridge with steamed buns. When Gina and others were eating, they found that Elaine hadn't come out, so she told someone to say, "Go in and see if the sorrowful woman is dead, and drag her out if she isn't." So the man came to the toilet, took a look at Elaine, and found Elaine was curled up in the corner shivering, so she walked forward, grabbed her hair, and abruptly pulled her out of it. When Elaine came out, Gina was already eating her box of lunch. Just like yesterday morning, Gina finished the steamed buns and deliberately left about 1/3 of the porridge. Then she looked at Elaine and said playfully, "You haven't eaten anything for 2 days and 2 nights. You must be hungry?" Elaine nodded in a daze, and said, "Sister Gina, please let me have a bite, otherwise I might really die." Gina sneered and poured all the porridge in the bowl on the ground, then tapped a little with her toes, and said with a sneer, "Do you want to eat it? Then lick it on the ground." When Gina asked Elaine to lick the porridge on the ground yesterday, Elaine was 10,000 unwilling. Because she felt that, no matter what, she could not just lie on the ground and do such abusive things just to eat one bite. But now, she can't take care of so much anymore. What about the 3 abuses, as long as they can fill up their stomachs, or even just fill up, let herself kneel on the ground and lick. So she immediately knelt down and lay on the ground without hesitation, licking the cold porridge on the concrete floor with her tongue. Old Mrs. Wilson couldn't be more happy seeing this scene. The thought that Elaine might stay in it for 10 to 20 years or even longer in the future made her feel even more excited. Elaine licked the porridge on the ground bit by bit, and even ate a lot of sand in her mouth, but she didn't care about it at all. At this moment, the prison guard opened the door of the cell, looked at Elaine in the room, and said coldly, "Elaine, come out, the police station is about to interrogate." Those who have not been sentenced in the detention center are collectively referred to as suspects. Suspects are often taken back to the police station by the police for interrogation. This is also a normal process. As soon as Elaine heard that she was going to be interrogated, she had no doubts. She immediately got up with difficulty, crying, and rushed to the door, watching the prison guard pleading, "Please, take me away soon." She didn't know long ago that this arraignment was just a good show arranged for by her son-in-law Charlie. The prison guard saw her in such a miserable state, her whole body was wounded, even 2 front teeth had fallen, and he couldn't help but be surprised. Immediately, she said to Elaine, "Come out quickly, the police officer who will pick you up is still waiting." These 2 police officers are the 2 police officers who sent Elaine over the previous 2 days. After less than 48 hours, Elaine has become inhumane, making them a little dumbfounded. But they also knew that someone had already greeted them and prevented them from asking about Elaine, so they all pretended not to see it and said directly to Elaine, "Let's go, our car is waiting outside." After that, the man walked up to Elaine with handcuffs and handcuffed her hands together. Elaine followed them out and asked nervously, "Comrade police officer, I was really wronged. Is there any progress in your case? When will my grievance be cleared and when will you let me go home?" After speaking, Elaine couldn't help but wept bitterly. The police officer said, "You are now involved in a transnational fraud case. This is the largest transnational fraud ever recorded in the world, and you, as the first suspect we have now, are the key to our investigation and arrest." Breakthrough. After that, the police officer said again, "If you are more acquainted, you'd better confess all your accomplices. This can help us solve the case, and it can also help you do meritorious service and strive for leniency." Elaine cried bitterly and said tremblingly, "Comrade Constable, please believe me, I am willing to swear with my life that I really don't know anything about this. The person you are going to arrest is my son-in-law. I can take you to arrest him. If you have any problems, you can try him, or even shoot him, there is no problem, but you can't wrong the good guy." As soon as Elaine was taken to the police station, she was immediately stuffed into the interrogation room. Several police officers came in immediately, sat in front of her, and said, "Elaine, how have you considered these 2 days? Are you ready to explain your business?" Elaine cried and said, "Comrade police officer, I was really wronged," the officer snorted coldly. "What? Are you stubborn? Do you really think we are vegetarian? If we can't catch your accomplices, you will have to fight all crimes by yourself. In this case, you might be going to be shot." When he heard that he might be shot, Elaine panicked and immediately pleaded, "Comrade police officer, I have said it many times, that card is really not mine. I took that card out of my son-in-law's pocket, and the code of that card is my son-in-law's birthday. This is enough to prove that this card belongs to my son-in-law, not mine. Since you said this card is suspected of transnational fraud, and the real mastermind must be my son-in-law, why don't you arrest him and try him?" The police officer sneered, "Your son-in-law's name is Charlie, right?" Elaine hurriedly asked, "You have already investigated him. Did you catch him? Did you try him out of the blue? Did you sentence him to give him a quick account?" The police officer took out a premium card from a file bag, put the premium card in front of Elaine, and asked, "Elaine, was this the bank card you used to withdraw money from the bank?" Elaine recognized the premium card at a glance. As soon as she closed her eyes in the past 2 days, what this card appeared in her mind. If it weren't for this card, how could one become a prisoner and suffer so many inhuman tortures? So she was really worried about this card, and she was deeply impressed. She resentfully said, "This is the card, this is what I stole from my son-in-law's pocket. He must be the culprit. You quickly catch him, try him, and shoot him." The police officer sneered, then took out another portfolio, opened the portfolio, and poured the contents on the table. What made Elaine dream of was that all the premium cards that came out of this portfolio were exactly the same, and there were at least a few hundred. Elaine exclaimed and asked, "Are these cards found from Charlie?" The police officer said, "To tell you the truth, that transnational criminal group forged many of these black gold cards, and they are very, very intelligent. They bought the personal information of many people from the internet and set the forged card passwords. Set these people's birthdays and send these cards to these people to trick them into going to the bank to check the balance in this card. The balance of each of these hundreds of cards is 21.9 billion. Once the deceived person can't control his greed and tries to take the money from the card, then he becomes an accomplice to help the criminal group defraud the bank and take money from the bank. Fortunately, you did not get the money at that time, you have been arrested by us, otherwise once you get out of that bank, the criminal group will look at you, kidnap you, ask for your bank card password, and then take away all the 21.9 billion you just scammed from the bank, and finally kill you and divide your body. In that case, you will evaporate in this world." Elaine was stunned. She blurted out and asked, "You mean, this card was mailed to my son-in-law Charlie by the criminal group?" "That's right," the police officer said sharply, "and not only sent it to your son-in-law, as far as we know, at least thousands of people in Oris Hill received this card. There are tens of thousands of people across the country." As he said, the police officer said again, "Your son-in-law is a very upright person, and a very magnanimous person. He has no greed. After he received this card, he found out the balance of this card. We immediately reported to the police. We were going to tell him not to behave in a rush, but unexpectedly, you stole this card without a long eye, and you took it to Citibank to withdraw money. Elaine exclaimed and said regretfully, "Oh, I should have known this situation. Even if I killed me, I would not steal his bank card." As Elaine said, the whole person was already crying. She did not expect that she would step on this kind of thunder without long eyes. It turned out that this card was a criminal's who stole Charlie's personal data, and then forged it and sent it directly to Charlie. What they did was to lure Charlie and make Charlie greedy for the 21.9 billion balance in the card. Then asked Charlie to go to the bank to transfer the money out and transfer it to his own account. In that way, Charlie helped them complete the whole process of defrauding the bank, and they could completely get rid of the crime and avoid all risks. After Charlie transfers the money to his own account, these criminals can directly approach Charlie, threaten him to call out the money, and then kill Charlie and let him take the blame. Thinking of this, Elaine was already covered in cold sweat. She didn't have the slightest doubt about what the police officer told her. At this time, she realized that when she was about to transfer the 21.9 billion in the bank, she almost passed death. If it weren't for the police to arrive in time, taken her away, so that she might have been killed by the criminal group until now. When she thought that she was almost dead, but she was lucky enough to get her life back, she was grateful. Even the inhuman torture in the cell has suddenly become worthwhile. Fortunately, she went to the cell and was tortured by old Mrs. Wilson and Gina, otherwise, she would have become a lonely ghost. Fortunately, Elaine couldn't help crying and said to the police officer, "Comrade police officer, since you all know that I have been wronged, please let me go." The police officer said coldly, "Let you go? If we let you go, if you talk too much about this matter, if you start to provoke the snake, then how will we catch the suspect in the future?" Elaine hurriedly stated, "You can rest assured, as long as you let me go, I will never talk about this to anyone." The police officer asked, "Can you really not tell anyone? Even your daughter and your husband, you can never say a word?" Elaine nodded and said, "I can. I can. I can definitely do it." The police officer said coldly, "I can't believe you. As long as you miss a word on this matter, it may bring irreversible consequences. Can you afford it by then?" Elaine cried and said, "Comrade police officer, please rest assured, I will take this matter into the coffin even if I die, and I will never mention a word again." Elaine had completely believed the story the police officer told her. What she worries most now is that the police officers continue to lock her in the detention center in order not to provoke them. Then she really doesn't know when she will be able to regain her freedom. So she looked at the police officer pleadingly, crying and said, "Comrade police officer, I really don't know a word, so you just let me go. If you lock me up again, I will die inside." "Up," the police officer shook his head cautiously and said, "Ms. Elaine, I still can't believe you. I see people like you a lot. On the surface, no one tells you. In fact, the mouth is faster than anyone. If you let them go, they will tell others about this immediately." As he said, the police officer said again, "And don't think that I locked you up to solve the case. In fact, it is also for your safety. Because after letting you out, once you talk nonsense, once they know about it, they are likely to kill you. It is even possible to kill you, and then all the evidence will be planted on you, let you their substitute. In that case, wouldn't you be more wronged? So, to be on the safe side, you should continue to stay in our detention center until we have caught all the suspects before releasing you. This will also ensure your safety. Elaine said desperately, then I have to wait until the year of the monkey and the moon? I beg you to be merciful and let me go. I really won't talk nonsense. I beg you, I am willing to kneel down for you. Cow my head, just beg you to let me go, don't lock me up again. Speaking of this, Elaine is already crying out of breath. Forget it. The police officer said coldly, we can't take this risk. After all, this case is about the International Criminal Police of 23 countries. If we do it because of you, we can't bear this responsibility. The police officer next to her sang red face at this time and said, I think her attitude is quite sincere. As long as she can control her own mouth, it doesn't hurt to let her go. The black-faced police officer replied, if the case cannot go on because of her, who will bear the responsibility? If she is killed because of this, who will bear the responsibility? The red-faced policeman looked at Elaine and asked, Elaine, can you control your own mouth? If you can, you write a letter of guarantee, we will consider letting you go, but if you promise to write, go out and talk nonsense, even if you say a word nonsense, as long as we know about it, we will immediately arrest you, and will never let you out until the case is finished. Elaine wiped her tears with her sleeves, crying out of breath, and said, Comrade police officer, you can rest your heart. I will tell you a heart-wrenching remark. I am also greedy for life and fear of death. Human, this matter is related to my own life safety. Even if they kill me and force me with a gun, I dare not say a word. The black-faced police officer asked coldly, what about your son-in-law? Will you go to your son-in-law to confront this matter right after you leave? Elaine sighed in her heart, didn't she even have the chance to find Charlie? Then who should be accounted for after so many beatings and so many humiliations in the detention center? So, she asked in a low voice tentatively, that, Comrade police officer, I'm just at home, can I tell my son-in-law about this in private? The black-faced police officer slapped the table angrily, and blurted out to the red-faced police officer beside him, I said this kind of stupid woman can't believe it. You have to let her go. Did you hear what she said? Go down and confront son-in-law. Isn't this going to kill herself and ruin our case? The red-faced police officer's complexion also darkened, staring at Elaine, and said coldly, Elaine, you really disappoint me. I just thought you could do it without mentioning it. I didn't expect you to return and want to confront your son-in-law. Are all the things I said to you just for nothing? Elaine panicked suddenly, and tremblingly asked, Comrade Constable, to be honest, I will end the game today. It will be Charlie's card. Can't I confront him? Is it? The red-faced police officer scolded angrily, stupid. Charlie is one of the members who received the premium card. The criminal gang itself has been staring at him, and it is even possible that his every move, every word and deed is in their observation. Within the monitoring range, there may be many monitors and listening devices installed in your home. If you dare to go back and mention a word with him, it is very likely that you will be killed, or even your whole family. Elaine was shocked and hurriedly said, Then I won't say it, I won't say it, I won't say a word, I won't say anyone. The black-faced policeman snorted coldly, now say this? Tell you. It's too late. I said a long time ago that people like you are not credible at all, and letting you out is a scourge. Sooner or later it will ruin our major affairs. Then take your own life in. After finishing speaking, he said to the red-faced police officer, I think it's better to shut her back again, when the case is solved, and when will she be released? The red-faced police officer no longer objected, nodded, and said, Be cautious, I think it can only be this way. When Elaine heard the conversation between the two, she burst into tears, crying heartbreakingly. While slamming her mouth with her handcuffed hands, she blurted out, Comrade police officer, I really know what's wrong. Yes, I really don't say a word anymore, you let me go, I will never mention this to anyone again, please don't send me back, otherwise I will die inside. The black-faced police officer observed at her and said coldly, I can't believe you at all. Elaine regretted it and wanted to beat herself to death. Why do you want to mention Charlie? What is more important now than letting yourself out? Besides, what's the point of going to Charlie by herself? This card itself was given to Charlie deliberately by criminals. It was low-handed and could not stand the temptation. Even if she went to settle accounts with Charlie, he would still be an unknown teacher. What's more, there is that transnational criminal group behind this, if because she scolds Charlie, he ends up killing himself, wouldn't it be a big loss? It's okay now, just because she had a bad mouth, she was able to let herself go, but now it seems that she has been tossed by herself. She thought over and over again, and could only use the trick of a biche crying, making trouble, and hanging herself. She cried and said to the two police officers, Comrade police officer, if you don't let me go, then I will hang myself in the detention center when I go back. Seeing Elaine looking for life, the two police officers looked at each other and the red-faced policeman asked, Elaine, we can consider letting you go, but there are some issues that must be communicated to you first. Let you go home, your family asks about your whereabouts in the past 2 days, how do you tell them? Elaine hurriedly said, I will tell them, I have these 2 days, Elaine hesitated for a long time, and didn't say a word, so she came, because she herself didn't know how to explain to her husband and daughter after returning home. After all, she has been missing for 2 days and nights for no reason. What's more important is that she doesn't have a good place all over her body now, and still just getting beaten. More importantly, even the front teeth have been lost, which is too miserable. The red-faced policeman said indifferently, Let's do it, I'll give you an idea. If we decide to let you go after consideration, then after you get home, you can tell your husband, your daughter, and your son-in-law, this in 2 days you entered an MLM organization by mistake. The MLM organization brainwashed you and asked you to go to the bank to complete the fraud, and then you were arrested by the police. Elaine nodded quickly, and blurted out, Comrade police officer, don't worry, as long as you put me back, I will tell my family according to your instructions, and I will never reveal a word about this matter, let alone it will delay your capture of transnational fraudsters. The policeman hummed and said lightly, Okay, let's study and discuss this matter, and we will send you back to the detention center immediately. If we discuss and decide to release you, the detention center will directly handle the formalities for you." Elaine hurriedly asked, "Comrade Constable, you will not let me go to the end of the discussion, will you?" The black-faced police officer slapped the table and scolded, "We have to discuss this matter. You can go back and wait patiently for the results of our discussion. There is no room for you to bargain." When Elaine heard this, she didn't dare to say more, so she agreed to honestly and tremblingly said, "Comrade police officer, am I going to wait for news now?" "Yes." The black-faced police officer said coldly, "We will let the police drive you back now. You must remember that after you go out of this door, don't say a word about related things." Elaine nodded resolutely and promised, "Don't worry, I won't say a word even if one kills me." Later, Elaine was driven back to the detention center by 2 policemen. On the way back, she was very depressed. Unexpectedly, this incident turned out to be such a reason. It's a big matter, and it's impossible to find Charlie's to settle accounts. Otherwise, if she can't speak a word well, miss a word, and are known by the police, she will probably catch themselves back to the detention center again. In that case, don't know which year and month she can come out. Just when Elaine was sent back to the detention center, Jacob couldn't wait to find a chance and continued to meet Miking again. Last night, he had a very delicious home-cooked meal with Miking at home, and it was Miking who cooked it herself, which made Jacob happy. So early in the morning, he sent Miking a WeChat message, inviting her to visit university, their alma mater, to find memories of the year. As soon as Miking heard that he invited her to visit her alma mater, she immediately agreed without hesitation. Immediately, Jacob immediately cleaned himself up, ignoring breakfast, so he was anxious to go out. Seeing him dressed up again, Claire immediately asked, "Dad, where are you going this morning?" Jacob happily said, "I have an appointment with your aunt, and we will go to my alma mater today. She hasn't come back for more than 20 years. When Claire heard this, he suddenly became angry, and blurted out, "Mom has been missing for almost 2 days and 2 nights, and there is still no news. How can you go hanging out with Aunt? Are you not prepared? Go and find out where Mom is." "Hey," Jacob chuckled, and said in a veiled manner, "Alas, isn't it up to you and Charlie to find her? After all, you two are young people, doing things more reliably than an old guy, so I just wait patiently for your good news." Claire angrily said, "Dad, I'm really angry no matter how you look like this. How come you still can't tell the priorities? My mother's safety is in your heart, isn't it better than staying with Aunt? Is it important to visit your alma mater?" Jacob knew that this kind of thing was wrong, so he didn't want to talk too much about the right or wrong of this matter with his daughter, so he waved his hand in a hurry and said, "Oh, it's late, I won't follow." "You said it, let's talk to you when I come back, I'll go first, bye." After speaking, he has already stepped out. Claire wanted to stop him in the end, but it was no longer useful. Jacob has already seized the door. Seeing Jacob leaving, Claire said angrily to Charlie, "Have you seen? Dad won't even take you this time. I believe Aunt will not take her son with her today. They are going to be there." "The world of 2 people," Charlie hurriedly said, "Oh, don't think about it so much. They are just old classmates meeting each other. What kind of two-person world is it? Claire said with red eyes. You don't need to excuse them, I can see what they are doing at a glance. After that, she asked Charlie again, by the way, have those friends started to help you find Mother's whereabouts? Did they reply to you? Charlie said, they told me that there would be results within today, and I also asked them to inquire. There have been no serious social security or criminal cases recently, so they also told me that my mother is not in danger. The possibility is very low. We should be able to get Mother back in a day or two. Hearing this, Claire's mood improved. She sighed and said, I hope your friends can be more reliable. It's best to let Mom come back today. Otherwise, I really am going to crash. Charlie couldn't help but slander in his heart, letting her come back is sure to let it back anytime. But the key is to make her shut up honestly. Otherwise, letting her back is a hidden danger. It's better to let her stay in the detention center. So he sent Isaac a WeChat and asked him, how is the matter with my mother-in-law? Isaac quickly replied, I asked the police to say hello to her. The words were very serious. I believe she must not dare to talk nonsense. Charlie relaxed and said, in this way, you send a few more in to help me make a scene, deepen her impression, and let her shut her mouth completely. Jacob dressed himself as an old overseas Chinese who had returned from Nanyang, handsome and stylish. This time, he and Miking had a very tacit understanding. Jacob did not bring Charlie with him, and Miking did not bring her son Paul. Jacob personally drove his BMW 5 Series, went to the Shangri-La Hotel to pick up Miking, and went back to his alma mater together. Now, Miking is wearing a long grey woolen coat, and she looks very temperamental. As soon as she meets at the door of Shangri-La, Jacob is fascinated by her. He got out of the car and opened the door to Miking, and he couldn't help but exclaimed, Miking, what you are wearing today is so beautiful. Miking smiled slightly and said, I'm all of an age. What is beautiful or not? I just have to go back to my alma mater to have a look, so I should tidy myself up a bit, and I can't shame my alma mater. Having said that, Miking said again, besides, I will have a party with our old classmates today. Oh, yes. Jacob patted his head and said, look at my memory. I just wanted to accompany you to visit my alma mater. I forgot about the class reunion. By the way, is the location of the class reunion set? If there is no decision, I can ask my son-in-law to help. Miking hurriedly said, the place has already been decided. I asked Paul to help him. He said it was a local place clubhouse. Jacob was surprised and said, brilliant clubhouse? The requirements for the guests are very high. Will Paul be able to get membership there as soon as he arrives in Oris Hill? Miking smiled and said, I don't know the details. I only know that he told me that our law firm seems to have a long-term cooperative relationship with the parent company of this brilliant club. Legal affairs are entrusted to our law firm. Jacob couldn't help being shocked. The parent company of Brilliant Club is naturally the famous Song family in Oris Hill. He did not expect that the law firm of Miking's family would have a cooperative relationship with the Song family. He originally wanted his son-in-law Charlie to help arrange a venue in the Brilliant Clubhouse, and by the way, he could also make himself pretentious. But he didn't expect that Miking's son solved the matter directly, which is really extraordinary. So, Jacob hurriedly made an inviting gesture and said, "Come on, Miking, get in the car." Miking thanked him, and gracefully sat in the co-pilot of Jacob's BMW 5 Series. As Jacob drove towards university, he couldn't help but sigh, "You have been away for more than 20 years and haven't come back again." Miking said, "I have been back to China, Suzhou, but I have never returned to Oris Hill." Jacob hurriedly asked, "Isn't it because of that incident that you didn't return to Oris Hill?" Miking said seriously, "Half and half. On the one hand, because of the previous incident, I don't want to come back to face the memories. On the other hand, I have no relatives in Oris Hill, and my old classmates have not been in contact for a long time. So I never came back." Jacob nodded, thinking of the last time when the classmates' reunion. Many classmates used their previous relationship with Miking and Elaine to tease them. Therefore, he said to Miking seriously, "Miking, we have a party today. Maybe those old classmates will tease us about what we have done in the past. Don't take it too seriously. It's a bit old and rude." Miking smiled and said, "As long as it's not distorting the facts, it doesn't matter if they make a joke. If I'm afraid of them ridicule, how can I bring these classmates together? Everyone hasn't seen each other for more than 20 years. What's the point of teasing me?" When they arrived at university, Jacob parked his car in the parking lot at the entrance of the school and walked into the school side by side with Miking. Classes are taking place in the school, so the campus is very quiet. The two of them were walking on the concrete road of the campus. Jacob introduced to Miking next to him, saying, "In fact, our school has been rebuilt and renovated several times over the years, and it is no longer what it looked like in the past. It's broken." "Yes." Miking couldn't help but sighed, "I remember that our school had only one cement road back then, that is the road that came in from the school gate. The other roads were paved with slag ash, and sometimes the school let the local students from home bring some burnt briquettes to pave the road. The road was very muddy when it rained. At that time, it was very disgusting, but now that I think about it, I still miss it." "Yes, yes, yes," Jacob said with a smile, "I used to bring burnt briquettes from home to the school. Do you remember that the school had a sports meeting that year? As a result, the track in our school's playground was too bad. Just start, we tried every means to get more materials that could be used to pave the road." Miking smiled and said, "Of course I remember, at that time you paid for me, brought a lot of male students, and bought burnt briquettes everywhere in the city by pushing a tricycle." With that said, Miking looked at Jacob's eyes with ambiguous brilliance, and said with emotion, "I remember that at that time you drove a lot of cars to the school. Later, half of the entire playground track was covered. The people you brought spread out, so the teachers and the school value you very much and made you the president of our school." "Yes." Jacob rubbed his hands with some embarrassment, and said, "Dedication was popular at that time." Miking nodded, and sighed, "Oh, you were really heroic at that time, and countless girls admired you very much. I remember the girls who liked you in school at the time, that was really a long line." Jacob blushed and said cheerfully, "At that time, there were more boys who liked you. I can't count the number of them." Miking smiled indifferently, it's all the old calendar. No matter how many people like you, it's useless. Many people just think of you as a passing moment. When they like you, they like it, but when they turn their heads, they forget. At this time, Jacob pointed to a small park on the campus and said, "This used to be a big forest." In the evening, many students fell in love, and those who have S3X will come here for dates. We also often came here at that time. Do you remember? Miking, who had always been calm, blushed immediately when he said this. How could she not remember that wood? Back then, it was the holy place where many wild ducks from the school met, and Jacob and she had visited many times. At that time, everyone was in this small forest, but they were really relaxed. Once they were in love, they felt that they could do everything with their loved ones. In addition, in that era, there was no other place to go, so everyone came here, and everyone was not surprised. But think about it now. The young people back then were quite open-minded, and they were much bolder than the young people now. Jacob deliberately mentioned the small forest, just to see how Miking blushed. Even if she was calm, she would be ashamed to think of the presumptuous youth and sweet and ambiguous past of the two. Jacob felt that he had to make Miking think more about the past, and think about the past that made her excited, and it would definitely arouse the fire in her heart that had been waiting for more than 20 years. Naturally, Miking knew what he meant, and she couldn't help but turn the subject away when she was shy, and blurted out, "By the way, how is our former teacher in charge now?" Jacob said, "Not bad, but the legs are not very convenient. Last time when our old classmates got together, we invited him to alma mater and invited him to the classroom to give us a lecture." "Really?" Miking sighed, "It's a shame not to be able to attend your party." Jacob smiled and said, "We had a small gathering that time. We were all old classmates from Oris Hill or near Oris Hill, and they were all male classmates." Miking nodded and said, "Today's party seems to have a lot of classmates, because I contacted several girls who had a good relationship with me, and they are all willing to come." "That's good," Jacob said with a smile, "then we can get together this time." Miking said, "But I heard that Panming seemed to have been dealt with because of corruption some time ago? He is now in custody awaiting prosecution." "Yes." When Jacob thought that Panming took his son-in-law to pretend to be forceful with him last time, he was furious. The old man last time, he really slandered him in front of his old classmates. Now he is in jail, not knowing how beautiful he is. So he smiled and said, "Old Panming, he deserves it. You say you work well, don't do it well, and you think about using your position to facilitate corruption all day long. What should we do? Our teacher taught that year. They do not ask us to become talents, but they must make us a righteous person. People like him belong to self and have their own problems." Miking nodded in agreement. In fact, most of the old intellectuals of their generation are very upright. Everyone went to university with the attitude of contributing to the country and society. Although Miking has always lived in the United States, she has always been concerned about China. There have been several major natural disasters in the country. Miking has donated a lot of cash and materials, and has even been commended by the country. However, she has always acted very low-key, and this kind of thing has never been mentioned to others, so old classmates such as Jacob have no idea that miking is still a great charity overseas Chinese. At this moment, Jacob's cell phone rang suddenly. He picked it up and found that it was the WeChat group of the student union during the university years. No one had spoken in this group for several days. At this time, all of them suddenly said, "Classmates, miking is organizing a class gathering at noon today. Are you here yet? I'm in Oris Hill, I'm already preparing for a banquet. I'm on my way to Oris Hill, there is still 100 kilometers left, and I will arrive in an hour and a half. I just got off the plane. I came here specially from East Cliff." At this time, someone said, "Jacob, come out soon, your first love is back. You old guy don't know yet, do you?" It was Tsuki who had a good relationship with Jacob. Last time Panming ridiculed Jacob, thanks to him being there to help Jacob round the field. Jacob saw that Tsuki had turned himself, and smiled and rolled his eyes, and said, "Why do you say that I don't know? If I tell you, I will be with miking now, believe it or not." Tsuki sent a voice and said with a smile, "I believe it, of course I believe it, what is the relationship between the two of you?" Back then, the two of you were recognized by our school, a perfect match. When Jacob heard this, he felt very happy, so he also sent a voice over and laughed loudly, "Ha ha, Tsuki, you tell the truth." Lilan, a female classmate in the class who had an excellent relationship with miking back then, followed him with an angry expression and replied, "Jacob, you still has a smile? It was you who took miking so angry. I haven't had a chance to meet miking's sister for so many years." Jacob suddenly became embarrassed again. Back then, he inadvertently cheated on Elaine after drinking. This incident was at school, but everyone knew it. Even thinking about it now, he felt extremely embarrassed. It was the biggest shame in his life. Just when Jacob didn't know how to reply, a person in the group who had not spoken jumped out and directly sent a red envelope. Jacob grabbed the red envelope a long time ago, so he immediately clicked the red envelope subconsciously, and was surprised to find that he actually received 200. Only then did he discover that many of his classmates had received 200. It seems that this is a big red envelope with 200 per person. Jacob was still gratifying for the 200 unexpected fortune, but when he saw the other party's nickname, it was called "I Miss That Beautiful Sunny Day," and his face turned black suddenly. At this time, the classmates in the group are all exploding. "I'll go, thank you boss." "Yeah. Boss Ya Wenru of Wanyan Diving, every shot is 200 per person, which is really unusual. I have heard that Boss Ya Wenru has made a lot of money over the years, and he really deserves his reputation." That's it. People thank boss, now he's a well-known Hong Kong businessman, what does this little money count? The man sent a smiling face and another voice, speaking in a Hong Kong accent, and said, "Oh, miking came back from the United States. I was very excited, so I sent a red envelope to make everyone happy." After speaking, he sent another red envelope. Looking at the other's nickname, Jacob seemed to be obsessed with miking, and he was naturally very upset. However, seeing the red envelopes coming out, he was reluctant to let go. So he could only curse this guy in his heart for being blind, while reaching out and opening the red envelope. Unexpectedly, this is another red envelope of 200 per person. With these 2 red envelopes, the other party has already issued more than 10,000. Suddenly there were a lot of compliments in the group. The other party smiled at this moment. Attention everyone, the 3rd round of red envelopes is here. After speaking, another red envelope was sent out. Everyone rushed to grab the red envelope, and Jacob also ordered the red envelope without any promise. As a result, the 3rd red envelope is still 200. Jacob was a little puzzled. He really couldn't think of who this person would be. After all, they didn't have classmates from Hong Kong back then. They were all classmates from mainland China. So who is this person who speaks Hong Kong and Taiwanese? At this time, the other party issued a 4th red envelope. The thunderous person is 200 per person. Then came the 5th red envelope, still 200. In just 1 or 2 minutes, all the online classmates in the group grabbed a red envelope of 1,000. But Miking never grabbed the other party's red envelope. At this time, missing that beautiful sunny day, said in the group, "I have flown from Hong Kong to Oris Hill this morning, and I am staying at the Shangri-La Hotel. I heard that Miking also lives in this hotel. I don't know if you are here. Which room? If it is convenient, apply through my friend and tell me your room number in private chat. I'll come chat with you." After that, Miking was still behind. When Miking saw this, she couldn't help but frown, and said lightly, "This Xia Wenru is the same as he was 20 years ago. He likes showing off so much." Xia Wenru. When Jacob heard the name, his jealousy was overturned. This Xia Wenru was the head of the External Relations Department of the Student Union at the time, and he was also a wealthy second-generation family. Back then, both he and Panming were one of Miking's suitors. It's just that at that time, Miking had no interest in him and Panming, so even if Xia Wenru chased Miking for many years, Miking was still unmoved. After Jacob and Miking were together, Xia Wenru worked against him in various ways, always trying his best to show off in front of Miking. Later, after Miking broke up with Jacob, he immediately realized that his great opportunity was coming, so he launched a crazy pursuit of Miking. But Miking still did not accept him, but went directly to the United States. Xia Wenru's family was very wealthy. His father had already established his business in Hong Kong before he went to university. It can be said that he was the first group of tycoons to become rich after the country opened up. Therefore, Xia Wenru had a strong family background, so he gritted his teeth and stomped his feet, chasing Miking to the United States. It is a pity that even in the United States, Miking still refused to accept him. Xia Wenru saw Miking finally fall in love with an American, and then left the United States in a desperate manner. Since then, he has gone to Hong Kong to develop. More than 20 years later, he has become a well-known successful businessman in Hong Kong. Jacob felt very uncomfortable, because he knew that what he lacked most now was money, and what Xia Wenru has most is money. Who would have thought that Xia Wenru was among the group of old classmates, just sending out red envelopes and sending out tens of thousands in one go? At this time, the students in the group who received the red envelopes continued to compliment. Boss Xia Wenru is so affectionate. When he hears that Miking is coming back, he can't sit still. Thank you, boss. you are not afraid that my king's husband will be jealous. That's, you ran over so aggressively. In the past, I saw the sweetness of my king and her husband. Don't you smash your old heart that has been beating for 40 to 50 years. How can you explain to wife when you go home? At this time, Lilan, a good friend of my king, made a silent expression in the group, saying, "Don't talk about it here, sister, my king's husband has passed away some time ago." As soon as Lilan said this, the old classmates in the group immediately made a blessing expression with their hands folded. There are also many people inside my king, saying, "Sister my king, change our grief." However, although everyone said so on the surface, most of the male students did not feel sorry for this incident at all. Especially Xia Wenru, he didn't know how excited he was when he heard that her husband had passed away. What he has been waiting for is to have a chance to truly come together with my king. After all, this was the woman he couldn't get anyway. Now that her husband has passed away, isn't there any obstacle to him? Therefore, Xia Wenru immediately replied in the group, "Hey, my wife has passed away long ago. It seems that my king and I have the same fate." An old classmate who had something good, heard his words and immediately said in the group, "Oh, then you and my king, aren't this a match made in heaven?" Several other old classmates who took his red envelopes also joined in. Some people even said, "Oh, Xia Wenru, you and my king are now widowed, then you two are really suitable, and I remember that you had a soft spot for my king back then, you must work hard." Ah, we old classmates are all blessing you from our hearts. When Xia Wenru heard this, he immediately laughed and said, "Then I would like to thank the old classmates for their blessings in advance, but this matter still depends on what my king means." Having said that, he said again, "Whether my king replied or not, I decided to return to Oris Hill for long-term development this time. Isn't it?" Someone in the group exclaimed, "Xia Wenru, your family has been developing in Hong Kong for many years? Why did you suddenly decide to return to Oris Hill at this time?" Xia Wenru said, "My king has lived in the United States for so many years, and she has decided to come back now? It seems that we are better at Oris Hill. This is the place where we swayed our youth, sweat and tears. I intend to come back this time." Retired in Oris Hill. Jacob couldn't help it anymore. He immediately tweeted in the group, "Xia Wenru, I advise you not to settle in Oris Hill. My king didn't like you back then, and it's impossible to like you now, so don't bother yourself." In fact, Jacob was very nervous and inferior at this time. In his opinion, Xia Wenru is now a large Hong Kong businessman, worth hundreds of millions, and he is stronger than himself and he doesn't know where to go. He hasn't had a good life all these years. Compared with the high-spirited self in college, it's a world of difference. The most important thing is that he and Elaine have not yet divorced, they are still married, and Xia Wenru is now widowed. It just so happens that my king is also widowed, so if they are together, it is really a good fit. Therefore, no matter how the comparison is made, he's at a disadvantage. He hasn't seen my king for so many years, and Jacob can't figure out what my king is thinking now. What if she sees Xia Wenru right at the party at noon? Xia Wenru saw Jacob talking in the group at this time, and said with a smile, "Oh, I thought that our original student council president would only snatch red envelopes. I didn't expect that the president would finally speak. Jacob's face immediately turned red when he heard this. As the saying goes, he was sluggish and short-handed. He just snatched several 200 red envelopes from others. Now that he was identified, his face was really a bit unbearable. This is no food in the pocket, panic in my heart. Jacob has never had a rich life. In addition, Elaine has always been in charge of the money in the family before. Therefore, even if he grabs a red envelope of 5 and 8 from the WeChat group, he can be happy for a long time. So it has long been a habit to grab every red envelope. Today, Xia Wenru gave out red envelopes in the group. He didn't even bother to see who sent it. The first thing was to grab them first. In the end, each of these red envelopes was 200, and Jacob who grabbed it was secretly happy in his heart, but he did not expect that the grab was a red envelope issued by a rival in love, and the grab was also out of touch. It's not worth the loss. Seeing that he stopped talking, Xia Wenru continued to ridicule, the president is a good official. He has graduated for so many years, and he still wants to order me. Jacob bit his scalp and replied, I am not giving an order, but to persuade you, for your own good. Xia Wenru immediately replied, for my good? For my good, you wouldn't let me return to Oris Hill to settle and be with her? I think you guy, it's been so many years and still can't forget Miking. You're afraid I will return to Oris Hill to settle down. Be your rival in love. Hearing what Xia Wenru said, Jacob felt a little guilty. He was indeed afraid that Xia Wenru would become his rival in love, but he certainly couldn't say such things among his classmates. After all, he is now married. Therefore, he could only say in the group against his will, I'm afraid you have been in Hong Kong for so long, and suddenly you feel uncomfortable when you come back to Oris Hill. We are all old and our bodies are getting old, so we rashly change to a different water and soil. In cities, maybe the health is going to be a problem. Xia Wenru laughed twice and said, I am in good health, so I won't bother you. Jacob didn't bother to talk to him anymore, put his phone in his pocket, and said to Miking beside him, Miking, let's go inside and go shopping. Miking nodded, and went on walking around the alma mater with him. After 10 o'clock, Miking checked the time and said to Jacob next to her, the class reunion arrives at 11 o'clock. I think it's almost the time. Let's pass now. Jacob nodded, smiled, and said, okay. Later, he drove his BMW 5 Series and brought Miking to the Brilliant Club. This time, Paul booked for Miking on the 14th floor of the Brilliant Club. This is already the top level of the Brilliant Club, which normal members can reach. Jacob couldn't help being a little surprised. The last time he relied on his son-in-law Charlie to know Lord Mr. Orville, he went to the 10th floor once. But never expected that this time Paul would be able to book directly to the 14th floor. It is said that the 15th floor is used by the Song family and is not open to the public. In other words, Paul should be the most senior member here. Moreover, the 10th floor of the Brilliant Clubhouse is already very, very luxurious. Isn't the 14th floor going to be luxurious to the sky? Walking up the elevator, Jacob couldn't help asking Miking next to him, Meking, is Paul and the Song family good friend? Miking nodded and said, after all, we have had a cooperative relationship for so many years, and we have helped them solve a lot of problems legally, so the Song family is fairly polite to us." Jacob was amazed in his heart. It seemed that Paul, a young man, was really young and promising. The two came to the huge luxury box on the 14th floor, and many old classmates were already waiting in the box. This box has a table that can accommodate 50 people for dinner at the same time. The table is huge and very luxurious. The entire table is electric. As long as a person sits there, the food will rotate in front of him repeatedly at a constant speed, ensuring that everyone can taste every dish. Moreover, such a large table, full of 100 dishes, is extremely luxurious. It is said that the standard for such a meal starts at least 20,000 per person. There are more than 40 old classmates who came here today, which is much more than last time. It is estimated that Paul's expenses for this entertainment will be at least more than 1 million. Seeing Miking and Jacob come in together, many old classmates were dumbfounded. Someone who has something good directly points out and asks, "Miking, why are you here with Jacob? Did you two meet down by accident? Or did you two come together?" Among the crowd, a very stylish middle-aged and elderly man in a high-end suit with a big back combed his head. At this time, his eyes were staring at Miking, and he was Xia Wenru. Xia Wenru has been waiting for Miking since he entered the box. Now that Miking is here, he is naturally looking at her intently. He found that Miking was still so beautiful, so outstanding, so intoxicating. He didn't dare to imagine that Miking was 50 years old, and she could be so beautiful. This also strengthened his belief in pursuing Miking. But he never expected that Miking, who he had been thinking about it for more than 20 years, would walk in with Jacob, who had hurt him before. He couldn't help feeling angry, and stood up and questioned Jacob, "Jacob, why are you embarrassed to come up with Miking? What you did to Miking back then, we all know well. If it weren't for you, Miking, how is it possible that you have lived in the United States for so many years? You should be very ashamed of it in your heart. If I were you, I would have no face at all." Jacob was also very angry. He said annoyedly, "Xia Wenru, don't speak too much. Anyone with a discerning eye knows what happened back then, you can't blame me at all." As he said, he added, "Do you think you've had a better life in the past 20 years? I tell you, in the past 20 years, you regret more than anyone and feel ashamed than anyone." Xia Wenru said dubiously, "You are ashamed? So I advise you to leave quickly, you shouldn't come for this meal." At this time, Miking suddenly spoke and said, "It's all right, you don't want to talk about the old sesame seeds and rotten grains. It is not when you were young, you liked to talk about gossip. 40 or 50 years old, why do you still say this?" After speaking, she looked around for a week and said seriously, "Every one of you here is personally invited by me, so there must not be any unpleasantness between you." Jacob sneered at this time and said to Xia Wenru, "Xia Wenru, have you heard? Even Miking said that. What qualifications do you have to drive me away?" After finishing speaking, he patted his forehead and said, "Oh, yes, I forgot to tell you, I didn't just come up with Miking, I picked her up at the hotel where Miking lived this morning, and then went to my alma mater together. I remembered our youth back then, and then came to meet with you. Why? Do you have any opinions?" When Xie Wenru heard this, he felt uncomfortable. After all, he has always had a unilateral crush on Miking, unlike Jacob. Jacob and Miking had been together for a long time. Moreover, the two of them were really talented and beautiful at the time, and they were the most standard pair recognized in the school. Therefore, there are many stories between these two people, and the two of them went back to their alma mater to recall the past, which in itself seemed a little ambiguous. Xie Wenru was very depressed. When he didn't know how to refute, the young Paul opened the door and said to Miking with a smile, "Mom, I have already greeted Boyu, the housekeeper of the Song family. Today you and yours classmates gather here, and he will arrange everything properly, so you don't have to worry about it, just gather with your uncles and aunts." When everyone saw Paul, they couldn't help but marvel, and a woman blurted out, "Oh, Miking, isn't this your son? How handsome!" Miking nodded lightly and said to everyone, "Come on, let me introduce you to everyone. This is my son. His name is Paul Smith." Another person exclaimed, "Oh, Miking, your son is still a mixed race, he was born to your American husband, right?" Miking smiled and said, "I didn't give birth to my husbands, but who else could I give birth to?" Everyone laughed. Xie Wenru asked at this time, "Hey, by the way, Miking, Paul should also have a Chinese name." Miking nodded and said with a smile, "Of course, Paul's Chinese name is my last name." Everyone hurriedly asked curiously, "Then what is Paul's Chinese name?" Paul smiled slightly and said, "Uncle and Auntie, my Chinese name is Han." Before the latter words came out, Miking hurriedly interrupted, "Today is our party, not with my son. Let him go first. Let's relieve the old together with the elderly." When Paul saw that his mother didn't want others to know his Chinese name, he immediately smiled and said, "Uncles and aunts, eat and drink and have fun, I will leave first." Jacob hurriedly said, "Oh, Paul, what are you going for in a hurry? Why don't you eat with us?" The reason why he wants to talk to Paul at this time is to let others see that he and Paul have known each other a long time ago. If this is the case, everyone can guess that he has already met Miking before this meeting. In this way, everyone naturally knows that the relationship between the two is extraordinary, which can also make those who have ideas about Miking retreat. When others heard the conversation between these two people, they did feel that something was not quite right. Why is Jacob so familiar with Paul? Paul smiled and said to him at this time, "I won't eat with my uncles and aunts at noon, because I still have business in the afternoon." Having said that, he specifically told Jacob that he asked Mr. Charlie to come to company in the afternoon to help him see Feng Shui, and he had to go and entertain him. Jacob smiled and nodded, and said, "My son-in-law has no other skills. It's okay to look at Feng Shui's skills. Let him take a look at yours when the time comes. He will definitely not ask you for money, otherwise, yesterday's didn't he just drink the wine for nothing?" After that, Jacob said again, "Well, let me call him and let him give you a free bill." Xie Wenru on the side was very depressed when he heard this. What happened? Could it be that this Paul, Jacob, and Jacob's son-in-law have already drank together? When did this happen? Is it yesterday? Didn't Miking just arrived in Oris Hill yesterday? Just arrived yesterday, and had dinner with Jacob and others? This is really a special treatment. Thinking of this, Xia Wenru felt a little uncomfortable. He not only thought to himself, does my king still like Jacob now? At this time, Paul smiled and said to Jacob, Uncle Wilson, you don't need to be so polite. If you ask Mr. Charlie to wave me, then I'm ashamed to let him watch it for me. My king on the side also smiled and said, Jacob, let's not interfere with the children's affairs. Jacob glanced at Xia Wenru and saw that her expression was very depressed, and he knew that his goal had been achieved, so he stopped talking to Paul about this, but smiled and said to him, Okay, then you go ahead. Your mother is here to take care of me, so don't worry. Xia Wenru felt even more depressed when he heard him say this. What does he mean by this? Why does he feel like he is Paul's stepdad? Thinking of this, Xia Wenru held a fire in his heart, and thought to himself, Jacob, Jacob, you already took my king 20 years ago, now if you dare to ruin my good deeds, then I will not let you go. So he deliberately said loudly, By the way, Jacob, what about your wife? That is the shrew who was very famous throughout our college. What is the name? It seems to be Elaine. Who knows what the name is? An old classmate in the class smiled and said, Yes, her name is Elaine. Yes. It's Elaine. Xia Wenru smiled and said, Jacob, I heard that you and Elaine are very affectionate. Your relationship should have deepened after so many years. Why didn't you call Elaine together today? As soon as Jacob heard him mentioning Elaine, his face immediately became uncontrollable, and he blurted out, Xia Wenru, which pod is not opened here? Elaine is not a classmate in our class, why mustn't she be here? Xia Wenru smiled and said, You have to figure out that you are a married man after all, so don't mess around with flowers outside, and don't be unruly towards other women, otherwise, once Elaine's shrews know, she will definitely not spare you. Jacob suddenly became angry and blurted out, Xia Wenru, what are you talking about here? When did I get in trouble, and when did I feel bad about other women? I tell you, don't think you have too bad money. You can point to sang and curse here, Jacob will not eat yours. My king's expression was very embarrassed, and her voice became a little angry, and she said, You two are endless, right? What I said just now, we are here for a class reunion today, not to make you arguing here. If you are still like this, then I will leave. Jacob said innocently, My king, you heard it too, it's the old Xia Wenru who is fanning the flames by the side. Xia Wenru was also a well-known Hong Kong businessman anyway, and he was confessed wherever he went. At this time, Jacob was scolded as an old man, and he was naturally very dissatisfied. So he slapped the table and stood up and shouted angrily, Jacob, who do you say is the old? Jacob's this also came up, glaring at him and said, I'm talking about you, what's wrong? Xia Wenru said coldly, Jacob, don't think it's an old classmate, I can't do anything to you, I tell you, you really annoy me, I make you can't eat. You think I am going back from Oris Hill to Hong Kong, can I be bullied by a worm like you? Don't weigh what strength you have and yell at me. Jacob suddenly felt a little guilty. If he wanted to talk about his strength, he wouldn't even be able to get 10,000. The villa he lived in was also abducted by his son-in-law, and compared with a vendor like Xia Wenru, it was useless at all. If he really angered Xie Wenru, he might not be able to offend him. When he was riding a tiger, Paul hurriedly said, "Two uncles, this game is for my mother's team today, so please give my mother a face and don't quarrel in my mother's team." Jacob immediately borrowed the donkey from the slope and blurted out, "Paul, uncle looks at your face and doesn't have the same knowledge as him." Xie Wenru said annoyedly, "After you scold me, you still say you don't have the same knowledge as me? Do you believe that I'm licking you now?" My King's expression became frosty, and she asked coldly, "Xie Wenru, what do you want? If you really don't listen to advice, then I can only ask you to go out. Don't blame me for disregarding the love of my classmates." Xie Wenru was very annoyed. It was obvious that he was scolded. Why didn't my King look at him at all? Jacob also felt that his face couldn't hold back. How should he respond when he was scolded in public? Hard? Will he really come up and smoke himself? At this moment, a 60-year-old old master stepped in. When the old master saw Paul, he smiled and said, "Mr. Paul, the chef has already prepared the food. I wonder if you can start the food." Paul looked at the old master and said in surprise, "Oh, Boyu, why are you here in person?" With a cry of "Boyu," everyone at the dinner table was shocked. Boyu? Could it be Boyu, the chief steward of the Song family in Oris Hill? Everyone knows that this Boyu is a great figure with great status and face in Oris Hill. When Xie Wenru heard that this person was Boyu, he immediately put away the arrogant face that he had just dealt with Jacob. Because when he was still studying in Oris Hill in his early years, he knew that the Song family was very strong, and that the Song family was now the strongest family in Oris Hill. Although he is now a well-known Hong Kong businessman and has hundreds of millions of fortunes, it is still far from the Song family. The assets of the Song family are hundreds of billions, 100 times more than themselves, so the Song family's stewardship status is much higher than that of itself, and its energy is much greater than that of itself. Paul was also a little flattered at this time. He really didn't expect that Boyu would come here in person. At this time, Boyu smiled and said to Paul, "Mr. Paul, the Song family has not cooperated with your law firm in 1 or 2 days. When I just opened up the export business in the United States, I accompanied our master to the United States. Moreover, we encountered many legal problems at the time, and your father helped us solve them. In fact, our old Mr. Song and your father had a personal relationship with you very well, but you were still in school at that time, and you might not be clear about these." Speaking of this, Boyu said again, "So, for the Song family, you are the son of an old master, how can we neglect? If we neglect, it seems that we have no way of hospitality." Paul nodded gratefully and said, "Uncle Boyu, if you have the opportunity, please help me thank Mr. Song, and also help me tell Mr. Song that I may be a little busy these days. After I have settled the matter here, after the company starts to get on the right track safely and steadily in Oris Hill, I will definitely come to visit." Boyu nodded and smiled, and said, "You can contact me directly at that time, and I will help you arrange time with the old master." After all, Boyu said, "Okay, I won't bother here anymore. Since the dishes can be served, then I will let the back chef quickly start the dishes." Paul said, "I just want to go, Boyu, let's go out together. Okay. Boyu nodded. As Boyu was about to leave, Xia Wenru hurriedly stood up and said respectfully, "Hello Boyu, I am Xia Wenru from Hong Kong Huizit Trading Company. I am glad to meet you." Boyu looked at him in surprise, and asked curiously, "I'm sorry, I don't seem to remember this company. Does your company cooperate with the Song family?" Xia Wenru hurriedly said respectfully, "You said that Boyu, I have always hoped to cooperate with the Song family. There has never been a good opportunity. If possible, I hope you can help introduce him." Boyu smiled courteously and said, "Thank you for admiring the Song family, but the Song family's requirements for partners are very high. With all due respect, if it is a company that no one has ever heard of, basically it is unlikely to cooperate with the Song family. A person like Boyu, who has been a housekeeper for many years, knows the entire family's business well, and has a certain understanding of top companies, large companies, and well-known companies across the country. This is also his professionalism. If he hasn't heard of a company, then the scale of this company must not be very large, at best it is second-rate. It is impossible for the Song family to cooperate with a second-rate company." Xia Wenru's expression was a bit awkward. He didn't expect that he would be rejected so simply by Boyu. Although the other party did not speak very directly, but the meaning is already clear at a glance. This made Xia Wenru feel a little frustrated, but he dared not express any dissatisfaction, so he could only respectfully and humbly say, "Sorry Mr. Boyu, it's great talking to you." After finishing speaking, he sat back a little angrily, feeling hot on his face. He had known that he would not be boring. Not only did he not get any benefits, but he also lost face in front of his classmates. Boyu nodded slightly to him as a response. His expression was a bit arrogant, but this was also normal. After all, he had long been a respected upper-class figure in Oris Hill. Paul looked at the crowd at this time and said, "Uncles and aunts, please gather here, I will leave first." After finishing speaking, he specifically said to Jacob, "Uncle Wilson, I'm leaving first." Jacob looked at Paul as if he were looking at half of his son, and said kindly, "Go, go, then go to work." At this time, Boyu saw Jacob, and he was surprised and said, "Oh, you are Mr. Wilson, right?" Jacob didn't expect that the well-known Boyu, the housekeeper of the Song family, would even know him, so he was surprised and asked, "You, how do you know me?" Boyu said respectfully, "Mr. Wilson, let me tell you that Mr. Wade is so kind to the Song family that everyone in the Song family is grateful for Mr. Wade's kindness. Don't dare to forget it. You are Mr. Wade's father-in-law, how could I don't know you?" Jacob suddenly realized. It turned out to be in the face of his son-in-law Charlie. It's really getting harder and harder for his son-in-law to flicker. It turned out that the Orville, who thought he was fooling, and Solomon White, who fudged him, are also very powerful. He didn't expect that he would fool the Song family, the largest family in Oris Hill. Paul on the side was shocked. He naturally knew that the Mr. Wade that Boyu was talking about was Charlie. But he really didn't expect Charlie to be so awesome. Even the head housekeeper of the Song family, Boyu, respectfully called him Mr. Wade. And according to what he said, Charlie has great kindness to the entire Song family. Is it the kindness that Charlie can see from looking at Feng Shui? Thinking of this, he felt that Charlie's image was a bit more mysterious. When he thought that he would come to his company to see Feng Shui this afternoon, he wanted to see if he could take the opportunity to learn some in-depth information about him. Boyu said respectfully to Jacob at this time, "Mr. Wilson, I didn't expect you to be at this table today. In that case, I will serve you at this table today. If you have any needs, you can directly order certainly." Jacob's classmates were shocked. Many of them were natives of Oris Hill. Everyone knew how strong the Song family was, so no one thought that Jacob would have this kind of face. Xie Wenru was also shocked. He couldn't figure out why Boyu, who was dismissive of himself, was so polite to Jacob. He inquired about Jacob's situation before, but he is nothing more than a fallen household man. The Wilson family has long been dying, and it is basically cold now. Jacob must have no capital himself, nothing more than an old rag. However, why does Uncle Boyu have to respect him, this old rag? Is it just because of his son-in-law called Mr. Wade? Thinking of this, Xie Wenru was curious about Jacob's son-in-law. So, he asked a classmate next to him in a low voice, "Who is Jacob's son-in-law?" Xie Wenru, who was quite disdainful of Jacob just now, was a little more jealous of him at this moment. In any case, his son-in-law can make Boyu so caring and respectful, which proves that Jacob is more important than himself in Boyu's eyes. He asked his old classmates about the background of Jacob's son-in-law, who happened to have attended the last class reunion, so he smiled and said, "The son-in-law of Jacob seems to be a vagrant. It is said that he is a full-time worker at home." "Mr. Wade, what exactly does he do? We really don't know." Xie Wenru is in business after all and has seen the world. From Boyu's attitude alone, he realized that he must never underestimate Jacob's son-in-law. Maybe the other party is still a very big person, otherwise it would be impossible for Boyu to be so respectful. This also made him feel worried, fearing after ridiculing Jacob just now. Aside from other things, just with Boyu's respectful attitude, it can be seen that if he is really torn apart with Jacob, Boyu will definitely not be against him. Therefore, he looked at Jacob with some fear, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Jacob, I was so embarrassed just now." They were all angry words made in anger. Don't take it to your heart. Everyone is old classmate. It's just a matter of just saying a few words. What do you think? Jacob knew very well in his heart that Xie Wenru was so arrogant just now, and suddenly became so polite at this moment, and even took the initiative to apologize to him. It must be because Boyu's attitude made him realize that he was not so easy to mess with. He didn't want to just give up with Xie Wenru, but Miking also said at this time, "Jacob, both are classmates, don't mention the unpleasantness just now." Jacob nodded and said to Xie Wenru, "Since Miking has spoken, I won't mention it anymore. I am a person who does not offend others and I not like being offended. If you do not continue to trouble me, of course I will not put my foot on your tail." If someone talked to Xie Wenru like this, he would have exploded. But at this time, he dared not clamor with Jacob anymore. After all, this is in the Song family's territory, and Boyu has such respect for Jacob. If he really makes trouble, he must be finished. Therefore, he can only say in an utter anger, "Jacob, you have a lot of respect, I will definitely toast you later." Other students also noticed the change in Xie Wenru's attitude. Everyone knew that Xie Wenru was a little jealous of Jacob. Some people are also surprised, this Jacob, his son-in-law is really so good, can the Song family be so polite to him? Jacob's heart at this moment is also very proud. He didn't expect that even though he didn't bring his son-in-law could still help him grow a face. With this attitude of boyhood today, in the circle of classmates, no one should dare to underestimate him. At this moment, Paul also took the car to his company Smith law firm. Americans and Chinese act in different styles. Chinese seldom use their own names to name companies, because the Chinese as a whole still believe in acting low-key, obscure, and not too public. The whole should highlight a modest way of doing things. However, Americans are generally very high-profile. Well-known American companies are basically named after their founders. For example, the famous Boeing Company is a super aerospace group that produces passenger aircraft, military aircraft, and space shuttles. It was named Boeing because of their founder, William Edward Boeing. It is equivalent to the founder using his surname as the name of the company. Another example is the world-renowned hotel company Hilton Group. Its founder is Conrad Hilton. This family is also the famous Hilton family. Paul's full name is Paul Smith, Paul is his first name, and Smith is his family name. Since his father founded this law firm, he named it Smith Law Firm after his family name. Smith Law Firm has been well known internationally after many years of hard work by Paul's father. So this time Paul moved his office to Orris Hill and directly chose the best CBD area in Orris Hill for the company's location. And he chose the most prosperous and top-notch office building, Gemdal Building. The Gemdal Building, with 58 floors, is the best and top 5-star office building in Orris Hill. Basically all the top enterprises in Orris Hill and the country and even the world can settle in the Gemdal Building. Because Paul Smith's law firm is also very well known, and it serves all of the world's top 500 companies, they also pay great attention to their appearance. It is worth mentioning that the Emgrand Group, which Wade family bought for Charlie, is the largest group company in Orris Hill, and it is mainly based on real estate. The Emgrand Group owns a number of high-end office buildings in Orris Hill, and these office buildings are operated by the Emgrand Group itself and have not been sold. This includes the entire Gemdal Building. Charlie was a little surprised when he heard that Paul chose the company in the Gemdal Building. Unexpectedly, he chose his property by such a coincidence. But think about it carefully. The Gemdal Building is the best office building in Orris Hill. A law firm like his is in need of a sufficient facade, so there is no other option except Gemdal Building. After he had lunch at home, he took a taxi to Gemdal Building. Paul's law firm is on the 27th floor of the Gemdal Building. He took the elevator directly to the 27th floor. Paul was already waiting for him at the elevator entrance. When he saw Charlie, Paul was very, very polite, and he came forward and said politely, "Oh, Mr. Charlie, it's really hard for you to come here." Charlie smiled slightly and said to Paul, "It's just a matter of raising your hand, don't be so polite." Paul invited Charlie to walk in and said, "Mr. Charlie, I had already let someone rent the 27th floor of this building a few months ago, and the renovation started immediately. Now the renovation is basically fast. The construction is completed, how about the overall feng shui? Is there anything that is not suitable, and if so, how to modify it? Charlie probably read it once, and soon found out that Paul had a very careful feng shui layout here. He smiled and said, "Paul, you seem to have seen an expert here, right? I think you have set up this entry point. The JK Feng Shui Bureau can gather wealth. There is a disaster avoidance Feng Shui Bureau in the main hall. For legal business like yours, this type of Feng Shui Bureau can avoid disputes to the greatest extent. Overall it is very good." Paul exclaimed and said, "Mr. Charlie, you are really smart, you can see my Feng Shui arrangement at a glance." Charlie said calmly, "Paul, your mother and my father-in-law have been classmates for so many years, so you don't have to be too polite with me. But I'm very curious, since you have already found someone here to see Feng Shui, why do you invite me?" Paul did not hide it at all, and said frankly, "It is true. Yesterday I invited you to help me see Feng Shui, mainly to see if you really have the true talents in this area. Now it seems to be abrupt. Please forgive me, Mr. Charlie." Paul was really curious about Charlie. From the beginning, he thought Charlie belonged to the Wade family of East Cliff. Later, even though Charlie let him dispel this doubt, the title of Mr. Charlie still gave Paul a new name. Doubt. Asking Charlie to come over and show himself Feng Shui is actually Paul's one-step temptation. He has already asked someone to watch Feng Shui specifically here. If Charlie couldn't tell after he came, that the Feng Shui Bureau had already been set up here, it would prove that he didn't have such a level, but if Charlie can see the Feng Shui Bureau here after coming, it will prove that Charlie's level is extraordinary. Paul did not expect that Charlie could see all the Feng Shui layouts here at a glance. The previous master also watched for a long time and studied for a long time before thinking about and laying out these. Charlie was not angry about Paul's suspicion. On the contrary, he admired Paul's magnanimity. He would say whatever he wanted, without covering up. This kind of quality is very rare in today's society. So he said to Paul, "You want to see if I have this ability to learn. This is also human nature, but since I am here, I will charge you a fee for Feng Shui, which is also human nature." In fact, Charlie didn't intend to ask Paul for money before he came. After all, he was the son of the old master's lover, so he still had to give this little face. But since Paul is so frank, one said one, and the other said two, then he should also get along with him in the same way. When Paul heard this, he immediately said, "Of course. Since Mr. Charlie is invited, how can he not be paid for it?" As he said, he took out the checkbook from his pocket without hesitation, drew on it for a while, tore it off and handed it to Charlie, saying, "Mr. Charlie, this 1 million is a little bit of my care. Please accept it." Charlie accepted the check with a slight smile, and said with a smile, "Then I would be more respectful than fate." After speaking, Charlie looked around, and said, "That means it is indeed seen by an expert, but the expert will inevitably omit something. For example, the entrance of the JK Feng Shui Bureau is naturally there is nothing wrong with it, but the failure to make a corresponding layout behind this is really a failure." Hearing what he said, Paul hurriedly asked, "Mr. Charlie, what do you mean by this?" Charlie smiled and said, "Feng Shui often says that purple energy comes from the east, wealth comes from the east, and your entrance faces east. There is nothing wrong with setting up the Jike Feng Shui Bureau, which means that money comes in from your entrance and enters your company. This is a good start, but your company must be able to keep the money. After all, he pointed to the back of the company and said, "Look at this side of your company, there are all transparent floor-to-ceiling windows and transparent glass. There is no such thing in the Feng Shui Bureau, so you just come in from the entrance and let it go out directly from the back without stopping." "Do you know what it is called?" Paul asked nervously. "Please Mr. Charlie, make it clear." Charlie laughed and said, "There is an old Chinese saying that bamboo baskets can be used to catch water." "Why do you say that?" Is because although the mouth of bamboo baskets can enter water, the gap itself is too big to retain water. If the company can't retain money, it is very likely that your company will be big in and out in the future, with more money in and out, and in the end nothing will be left behind. Paul exclaimed and asked, "Mr. Wade, how should this situation be resolved?" Charlie said lightly, "First of all glass must be filmed. As I said earlier, if the glass is transparent, it means nothing, but once it has a color, even if it is just a light brown color, it is equivalent to putting it on. The glass becomes a wall." Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.